Alright, folks, this presentation is going to be about shaping your identity to become the ideal version of yourself. So it's going to be a bit about breaking out of your old habits, those old, those desires, so to speak, so that you can, step into that new version of yourself, the version you want to be, achieve those goals and dreams that you have. Now, this is from the School of M.I.L.O. This is the school, the platform that I'm working on building. So these are the parts of the things that I'm teaching as I'm going along. And just before we get started, these slides are not the fanciest slides. They're very just plain white background slides. It takes a lot of effort to actually edit these slides and add all the stuff, which is a bit of nonsense. So it's better, in my opinion, to get the content out there, have the focus on me, and respectfully, if you can't focus on the content I'm giving out, then maybe this is not the slide for you or the presentation for you. So the focus needs to be on the content, right? Rather than the fancy backgrounds. All right, so why am I doing this? I'm basically in the stage of doing this myself. So I'm sharing the things that I'm going through. There's some old habits, some old patterns that I'm trying to break out of. So this is almost me sharing what I'm going through to, one, hold myself accountable. Two, it'll be good to look back on, months, years down the line to see where I was and where I am in the future, and even years down the line, whatever it may be. And maybe there's other people going through this as well. So maybe some people also struggle, there's that dopamine that we're chasing, and you can't get out of it. And you're not alone, and you can maybe follow these steps if it resonates with you and you want to take it on further. So that's a bit about why I'm doing this particular presentation. So the overview, this is and by the way, if you see me looking down, it's because I'm also looking at the slides. I've not memorized this word for word, so it's just, what comes up next. I have a quick look and then I present it as I go along. So the overview, what is the actual, the problem? Let's just give a brief summary of what it is. It's the weak mindset. So in this case, for me, it's always chasing those short bursts of dopamine. So I would always be doing a task, let's say trying to work on some coaching. I do a bit of coaching on the side, or trying to make that more of a sustainable form of income, or even doing like a job hunt, for example, or working on any goal, whatever it be. But I had that difficulty of persisting and doing those boring things, so to speak. To get good at something, to master a craft, to be very expert at something, you need to do the things daily, consistently. Like look at football players or soccer players, depending on where you're from in the world. They do training every day. It's not the fun stuff, but then in order to be able to perform at that high level, they go to the gym every day. They do the football training every day. They eat the clean foods every day. They sleep, good times, 7-8 hours, whatever it is every day. So I had that inability to actually do those things consistently to get me to the end goal, and rather I would do it for a little bit, week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then I'd go back to my old ways, or I'd chase that short dopamine. I'd get bored, I'd get tired, and perhaps I would binge watch some YouTube or eat some junk food because there was just nothing really exciting going on in my life. So that was, it's a bit of scatterbrain, as I mentioned here. Get bored, chase dopamine, and then I wouldn't have that longevity in that particular goal. Just gonna have a quick sip of water. So here's a quick overview of the solution. So the solution is to embody that mindset of those, those top athletes. So in this case, we could use the example of a athlete that's got a gold medal. Those athletes that have the gold medal, they've got a different mindset, a different mentality, a different way of being than just say the average person in the street, or even compared to people that are like bronze medalists, silver medalists. They still have that. There's something that separates them, making them that top, 1% or even 0.1%, whatever you want to say. It's the same as the athletes. You see any player at the top of their profession. The ones that, like, let's look at tennis. Djokovic, 24 Grand Slams, compared to someone that's only a few Grand Slams. There's still that something that's, even though someone that's won a few Grand Slams is a ridiculous mindset, there's still something between him or her and Djokovic, someone that's done it consistently for 10, 15 years. And I guess what they're able to do, obviously it's a mind over matter thing. They've trained their mind to such a point where even tiredness doesn't affect them. Like, they feel tired, but they can still push through it. They've trained their mind so much that it's their mind is more powerful than anything, any obstacle. But the main thing they all have in common is they're able to do these boring things consistently. So they're not chasing those short dopamine hits. They are, they just have this ability to almost see that end goal that they're looking for, and that purpose is what keeps them going. And another thing, they always have this positive mental chatter. Like you see a lot of players, like even if they have a setback or they miss an opportunity, miss a chance to score a goal or whatever it is, they have this mindset of, okay, they just almost let it go. They get back into the present moment. They look what they did wrong, feedback, and then they go again. They go again. They go again. So a lot of people often do something wrong. They fail. Someone, laughs at them, and that stops them progressing forward. But these athletes have this ability to bounce back no matter what's going on. And they have this solution focus. They always find a solution. They see these challenges. They embrace them, and they actually enjoy that. So that's the overview of what they are, what we want to get to, and how we want our mindsets to be. So now I'm going to go a little bit more into the problem and the addiction. What is going on? At least what was going on in my experience, and it's kind of related to everyone else, but obviously I'm sharing it directly from what I went through. So in this case, as I mentioned already, I would have this pattern of being tired. Well, I say tired or bored because I'll expand on that a bit. When we think we're tired, it's actually not often the case. Like, what I mean by that is our body is trying to protect us. So it will say it's tired, so you don't actually, it thinks it's going to die. So it doesn't want you to die. So it will just say, you're tired, you can't do any more, stop. But there's been studies that show that you can actually go at least 40% more than the effort you're putting in when you think you're tired. So it's almost like a safety, like precautionary measure your body kicks in, but you've actually got way more in the tank. But the thing with me, in this case, I would think I'm tired. Let's say I'm doing some work. I say, I'm tired, I feel a little bit sleepy. And then I would stop and chase that dopamine. And that was the issue, because I'd get like a tiny bit tired. Instead of doing like a sustainable amount, like an hour, 2 hours long, it would just be like 20 minutes, 10 minutes. And then I'm tired, dopamine hit. And it would just be in that constant cycle. So instead of doing work for a longer period of time, it would just get less and less and less because I'm constantly chasing that dopamine. Because I'm listening to the body, I'm listening to the body, and I've conditioned the body to just, almost like have power over me in this case, which is not ideal if you want to achieve bigger goals and, your dream life. And I guess it was the same for boredom as well. The same thing would apply. And I would have a little bit, I'd experience boredom after, say, 5 minutes. I'd go check an email or go check a video or do something. And it's just, like I said, a constant pattern. And like I said, as it says at the bottom there, the ultimate problem, I can't achieve those bigger goals because I'm not doing the things I need to on a daily basis and consistently on a top level to get the end goal, to get that, the ideal income, the ideal environment to live in, the ideal relationship, whatever it is. You just can't get that. And this is, I guess, imagery of what it looks like in what's going on, but in like image form. So there's a stimulus, which gives the anticipation, and then you have the pleasurable task. So in this case, the pleasurable task could be, and I'll go into this in the next slide or two, but the pleasurable task can be different for everyone. They ultimately give the same emotion. It gives the same thing, which is the dopamine, but it varies. So we can often look for this in like junk food, in alcohol, in cigarettes. Like that pleasurable task can be anything, scrolling through social media, but it still gives the same outcome of the dopamine released. It's just often we each have our own thing that's addicted to us, and then if that is no longer there, so say for example you normally smoke cigarettes, but you've got no cigarettes, then instead you might scroll through your phone, and if your phone's run out of charge, you might drink some alcohol or coffee or tea or something like that. So it all gives the same outcome in a different way. Okay, so then that gives you the reward. You feel, I feel good now, and then you repeat it again. And because we keep repeating it again and again, the loop almost happens so quickly and without thinking. So maybe the first time you did this particular, you gave into an addiction, it took you 15 minutes to, have a cigarette. And then because you've reinforced it again, your body gets used to it, goes, I want it again, I want it quicker and faster now. So then maybe 14 minutes, and then gradually the minutes keep reducing to the point where you're so hooked on it that you put one cigarette out, and you often see people do this. They put one cigarette out, and then within literally a minute or two, another one. And they're not even thinking about it because it's on loop. It's just you're like this robot playing out these patterns. So that's the problem. It's the addiction. It's on loop. You're not even thinking. There's no awareness around it. And if there's no awareness around it, first and foremost, you don't know how to stop it because you're not even aware you're doing it. The second issue becomes when you become aware of it, you often don't have the skills or the almost that strength to actually stop it. So you're okay, I know I've got this problem, but I can't stop it because I'm still hooked. The energy's too thick, so we need to almost burn out that energy and almost have a reset of the dopamine system. So here's the plan. It's kind of what I mentioned, just before from the addictions. But the plan of what I need to do and what I'm going to be doing is, well, there's 3 things I've written here. So it's training the mind over matter. So what I'm going to get into later on is setting up a specific plan to get those reps in. So I'll set up a plan of what I'm going to do, how I'm going to go about it. And the thing is, when I say get the reps in, all it is, like the only reason you're addicted to something is because you've done it over and over and over and over and over again that you're used to it. So it's about doing it, but the opposite way, in the positive way. So it's about, instead of getting bored and then chasing that dopamine hit through scrolling through, let's say, YouTube, TikTok, it's about doing reps the opposite way. So instead of scrolling through TikTok, I might, create my own content, which, like I said, I'll get into that stuff in a second. And then it's about doing that again and again and again till that becomes the positive habit instead of the old habit we're trying to get rid of. So then that kind of leads on to that second point, which I've said here. It's, it's literally getting used to almost a more boring way of living. And I know for a lot of us in our egos, well, I need to have some fun, which, yes, we'll get into that later on. But the point is, we're so used to dopamine and so used to those addictions that it's consuming our lives. And something as simple as just sitting down peacefully the brain can't handle it. So we need to literally flush out all that old dopamine, those heightened dopamine sensors, reset it to that neutral base level, and then go from there. So you're reprogramming yourself to do that, which I'm going to get into as well, at least the way I'm going to do it, and we'll see how it goes, I guess. So that's I guess an overview of what I need to do. And the specifics is introducing the positive habits. So as I mentioned, I'm going to replace the bad habits with positive ones. And for example, you can't just do this for like 1 day, 2 days. You need to have a duration of time. But some ways to actually introduce these more boring habits is to take boring breaks, which I read somewhere. I just saw a video as well. So what we often do when we have a break from work, let's say you've got a 10-15 minute break, we often use that time to have something that will give us the dopamine hit. So we'll scroll through our phone, we'll have a cigarette, go drink some coffee or something that will just boost our dopamine. So then we actually associate work as boring and the breaks as fun. So we look forward to those breaks and we're chasing those breaks, which is why when you're doing work, for example, you're like, I've got 20 minutes to my break, I can't wait, come on. You're just trying to look forward to that next break. And what this guy suggested, I can't remember his name. If I find it out, I'll give him a shout out in this. But he's suggesting with the boring breaks, do something that is not going to give that high dopamine hit. So go for a walk by yourself, sit in silence. Even, and he said, stare at a wall. But the point of it is, you do that thing which almost bores you a bit more. So then you're actually looking forward to going back to work or doing whatever task it was before, rather than you're looking forward to the break. So you're reframing your mind to actually enjoy doing that task rather than enjoy going on the break. So then you're actually looking forward to going back, like I said. And also it's making use of the in-between moments. So the similar thing applies to that, but like when you're in a queue somewhere, when you're on a train, you often scroll through your phone. You see everyone on the phone, everyone just doing whatever, just getting that dopamine hit in those in between moments too, that are, when there's nothing really to do. So he's saying embrace the boredom in that moment rather than chasing the dopamine. Embrace it, sit with it, feel it, and make that your baseline level rather than always chasing for something else. And there's something which I've not tried this yet, but I guess it's similar to when you're in the gym. Okay, so this last point here is what I've said, is measuring when your mind starts complaining about being tired or bored, right? So like you would do in the gym, let's say 1 week you're doing 10 kilograms and you got in 10 reps. The week after you might try and get in 11 reps, 12 reps, and then you might increase the weight or the sets or something. So it's similar, but for the mind in this case. So like I said, I don't know how specifically I'm going to do this, but I might just have to set a timer and be really aware of stuff when I'm doing them. So let's say I'm doing a task to help with my coaching or something like that, and I set aside an hour for that time. I will try and measure or be aware of when my mind starts complaining about being bored. So let's say this first time, 10 minutes, it started going, I'm bored, stop, let's go watch some social media or go have a chocolate bar. So in this case, it would, I know 10 minutes is the time to beat. So next time, let's say, hopefully I can persist through that 10 minutes. But if it genuinely got too bad and I stopped after 10 minutes, I know next time I have 10 minutes to beat. So 10 minutes, okay, now I need to get 11 minutes, 12 minutes. And each time, just trying to beat that. Doing it gradually as well. Because saying you did 10 minutes one time, next time I'm going to go for the whole 60 minutes, it's too much of a gap. Like if you did 10 kilograms in the gym 1 week, it's unrealistic to say week 2 to do 40 kilograms, isn't it? So it's doing it gradually, being aware of when your mind, and what is coming up in your mind as well. Like eventually you become aware of the mind going, like doing this chatter, but you realize you can actually push through it. It's just the mind trying to protect you. So it's seeing at what point the mind's chattering and trying to beat that every time. Now here's some examples. So these are some of the most common dopamine habits that we have, and that I'm also trying to overcome. So the ways to overcome them as well. So the junk food one in this case, replace that with healthy food. Quite simply explained there. Instead of having a chocolate bar, replace it with maybe a organic alternative or I don't know, fruits or something like that. So you almost condition your mind, your body to get used to not craving those junk foods, but it has it with the other healthier foods. And it's also being aware as well, putting a lot of awareness on certain, like when you're craving these junk foods. Maybe it's better to set certain times of eating in the day and only eat in those times. So you might have your breakfast, if you eat breakfast, 9 a.m, your lunch 1 p.m, and your dinner at, say, 6 p.m. So you're not having these foods at scattered times throughout the day. So you set specific times, you eat at those times to the best you can. Obviously, we'll have different schedules, but in an ideal world, you set those specific times and stick to it. So the binge watching videos, that's something I do actually quite a bit. I also use the excuse of watching self-development videos and end up watching them for like hours on end. And even though that's the same as just watching, like garbage videos anyway, it's just a different form. So in this case, the positive habit could be create your own videos. It might create my own educational videos maybe instead, or have purposeful engagement. So maybe I could, if I'm scrolling, instead of just scrolling endlessly, maybe network with people, maybe leave a positive comment, or maybe use that to make my own content as well. Like get some ideas from that and make my own content. Lust is another one as well. That's quite a big one, especially in this society. A good way to overcome that is to have the mindfulness, the meditation around it, be aware of what's coming up, have some movement, do some yoga. So you're channeling that into something else rather than channeling it into something that's less productive and harmful for you in the long run. Or you can even build meaningful relationships instead. Use that excitement that you get to talk to your partner if you have one, or even make connections with others in a romantic way, and at least try and build upon that. And the tired one, now they're a bit similar, the tired and the boredom one, but I'll explain them separately just for now. So the feeling tired, as I mentioned already, it's having that awareness around when you start feeling tired, what thoughts are coming up, and then training the mind so the mind doesn't fatigue as quickly. I mentioned this literally a few minutes ago, but training the mind, getting those reps in, strengthening the mind like a muscle, like your bicep, and perhaps scheduling this time into your diary. That's something I'm going to do to not give into that tiredness. So what do I mean by this? There'll be set times throughout my day that I'll do stuff regardless of what is going on, even if I feel tired or not. So let's say, for example, a morning routine. Maybe do some, in my case, maybe a bit of like yoga, let's say in the morning, maybe just 15-20 minutes. Even if I feel really tired, getting that done in the morning. Maybe in the evening I'll do something similar, maybe a bit of yoga or meditation or whatever activity it is, but doing that regardless. So even if you're really knackered, you had a bad sleep, a long day, it's getting that in no matter what. And another thing could be you schedule gym time. Maybe you say 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday and Friday, I go to the gym at 1 p.m. Although I know things change, your schedules get altered, but to the best you can, you stick to that time regardless of the how tired you're feeling, what's going on. So you schedule that in the week before. Schedule those times in and stick to it. You feel really tired, you had a bad sleep, you still go to the gym. Just putting those times in. And obviously, you don't have to do that for everything in the day, but it's setting like core things that make you stick to that activity regardless of how you're feeling. And it's not saying every hour of there has to be scheduled like that. I mean, if you're advanced, you can do that. But for most of us, we're not in that stage. I'm not at that stage. So it's starting off gradually and putting little things in place that you stick to no matter what. And similarly, the boredom one. That's having the awareness around the boredom. When I'm, doing a task and I get bored, I want to scroll through. Having awareness, what's coming up in the mind. At what point do I want to stop doing this task and scroll on social media or I don't know, eat a chocolate bar because I'm bored. And it's training the mind to get used to those boring things. So it's instead of doing it instantly, doing that thing, doing that social media, doing that chocolate, eating that chocolate bar. It's trying to delay that gap between me feeling that boredom and taking action on it. So instead of that, I'll be aware of it and then gradually I'll reframe it to do something else, to sit with that boredom, to do something productive instead, to meditate on it, to do yoga. And eventually, you'd burn out the energy or the energetic charge behind doing that dopamine-induced activity. That will slow down and you'll put that energy towards using it into a positive habit. And that's when you build it up. There'll be energetic charge around it. And that will become your natural default state instead. So that's the goal. And it's very hard to get there, which is why a lot of people stop. They might do it for a few weeks, even a month, 2 months, and then they stop because they haven't burnt out the energetic charge of the old habit. And there's a slide, I can't remember when it is, it might be next. Okay, so it's coming up, but I talk about that. But one of the ways, or one of the reasons I should say, why people don't stick to things is because they haven't found their purpose behind it. So it's quite easy to say. So I'm just going to have a sip of water. So let's use the example of like not eating junk food. So people say they want to lose weight because they want to look good for a wedding, let's say. That's a very like small, one-off, I guess. Not materialistic's not the word, but it's not like you're not doing it for a big purpose. You're doing it for external validation, so you look good in the suit or the dress, and other people go, "Oh, how you look good," and you might feel good. But it's not for a big purpose. It's not being of service. It's not achieving a legacy or doing something bigger. So that's why people don't stick to it, because they do it for that one thing, then it's done. Then who cares, right? The wedding's done. You look good for the photo. Sod it. Don't need it anymore. So you need something higher, a higher purpose in order to actually stick to it. So let's say, use an example of Djokovic in tennis. He wants to be the world number one, achieve the most Grand Slams, Olympic gold medal. So that's way bigger than just say, I want to participate in a school tennis tournament and get a photo so it looks good off my Instagram, for example. So that why, because it's so big, it keeps him driven, it keeps him going at those times when he's like, oh my God, I don't know if I can do this. And because he's around the people that are in that mindset, it pushes him as well. So you need to actually a little bit be around those people as well that have that same purpose, that same vision as you. So you stick to it and it keeps you going. Now, the way to actually find your purpose, because a lot of people say, but I don't know what I want to do. I don't really, I enjoy a few things, but I don't know, I can't make a living of it, or I don't know the direction to take. And to be honest, I've been there, I'm still a little bit there myself. but you kind of narrow things down by trial and error. As you do things, you realize that's not quite for me, and then you go in a different direction. So you adapt as you go along. But I saw this as well by, I think his name's Myron Golden or something like that on YouTube. And he showed this diagram, which is below here. And the way to actually find your purpose. Now, it's that little middle point of the things you're good at and the thing you love doing. So where that point intersects is the thing that is your purpose. And we can often find our purpose through a trauma we've experienced as well. So if you've overcome something, it could be said that you're good at that particular area. Like if you've overcome a manipulative, toxic relationship and you've mastered the art of dealing with toxic people, you could say you're great at that, or you're good at that, and you've mastered that. And perhaps you love now helping people because you don't want the same thing to happen to them. So that's the point where it intersects, and that would be your purpose. So it's often look at the stuff you've overcome in your life. What traumas have you had? What areas have you overcome? What areas have you mastered? And what is it that you love doing? So some of these may be different, but look at the point where they intersect and they overlap, and that will be how you can find the purpose itself. It's going to be different for everyone. Don't think because society says you have to become a doctor or a lawyer, that's going to be your purpose. That's just conditioning. Look at what you've specifically overcome, what you love, not what your parents love, not what society loves or wants you to do, what you're good at, what inside lights you up, what you're truly passionate about. So find your purpose. And additionally, adding to that is, you need additional things in place to help you stay on track. So I mentioned being around those people that are on that same vision, the same path as you. But obviously that's like, the purpose is like the end destination. You need little milestones, stepping stones along the way. So a few ways you can do this is doing challenges, accountability challenges. So something I've done with some people that I know as well, and even joined some online communities, is doing like these things like 30, 60-day challenges, habit challenges that keep you on track to do them. So that's something I'm doing and I have done and I'm going to keep doing. But also it's part of the community as well. Now, there's a lot of communities out there. And you could say, okay, they all do the same thing. So it's finding the ones that resonate most with you. Like someone could say a message to you and it doesn't hit the spot. Whereas a completely different person could say the same message, but because you resonate with them, you've got something in common, you have similarities, you might have the same background, it's more relatable, you might be better off going with them and in that community. So that's what I say about having those like-minded people around you. And lastly, is place your goals everywhere. So you don't want to just write it, put it in like on your bookshelf, never see it and forget about it. You want every day to see that first when you wake up, what is that bigger vision, that bigger thing I'm going for? So you align your day towards that thing. So everything you do is aligned with that. All the habits, the actions you take, and you remember, this is the big thing. What am I going to do today to help me get there? And anything that's not in alignment with that, respectfully has to go. So the next slide I say is some additional tips, because when I say everything's what to you think, but I can't get rid of my friends, can't get rid of my family, all that stuff. Some people you will have to get rid of because you realize they're a distraction, and some activities as well. You realize it's a distraction. So some things will definitely need to be permanently removed. That's some toxic friends, some toxic habits, as we mentioned earlier on, like the purpose of this presentation. Other things, you might have some good friends or some family members or some activities you still enjoy doing. You might still want to look at self-development videos on YouTube. So what you do, you schedule in that time for fun. The ones that either add in value for you or give you joy, light you up inside, schedule time in. Maybe you have 1 hour or 30 minutes a day to do some self-development videos on YouTube to watch them, or to hang out with or chat to your friends or families. You schedule that time in. Okay? And additionally, just do this all gradually. Don't expect to be a master overnight. Do it gradually, step by step. It's better to do like tiny 1% increments, getting 1% better each day, each week, rather than forcing it to go all out and then you regress, significantly. And expect there's going to be times where you have setbacks. There's going to be challenges. This is part of it. Just remember, you want to go 2 steps forward and 1 step back, not 2 steps back and 1 step forward. So just remember that. And then as you do that, get feedback, go along, adapt as you go along, and keep making changes, because you're going to make mistakes. That's part of the learning curve. Learn from people who've done what you want already. Learn from them, adapt it to your own style, to the way you work best, and then just keep going, have that resilience and keep pushing forward. So yeah, this is the stuff I'm going to be working on and the stuff that maybe will help you guys. I hope this helps, and I will, I guess, update or do another video soon. Thank you.